Hi, today we're going to be having a look at how Landscape Builder works and the interface and workflow of it, and I'm going to be showing you how to create a relatively simple terrain in Landscape Builder. So to start with using Landscape Builder, we need to open the Landscape Builder window. So this is pretty simple to do. You just go up to Window, click on Landscape Builder, and then I tend to like to dock the tab over near the inspector, so just drag it and drop it here. Okay, so first what you want to do is usually just name the landscape, so highlight it and type into the box. So I'm just going to call this tutorial landscape, and then select the size of the landscape. So the default is 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers, so I'm just going to leave it at that for this one. And the terrain width, so the width of each terrain, I'm just going to leave that as the default as well, and the start position we're going to also leave at the default. So then we're just going to click generate landscape. So that generates this small landscape down here. It's a kind of blank canvas, doesn't have anything on it, but we can start building stuff now. So when you generate the landscape, it automatically moves into the topography tab. So in the topography tab, that's where you build the topography of your landscape. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to show a simple and easy way to generate some topography. So in here, we're going to use the Perlin noise height map generation, and I'm just going to build one from a preset. So click on the preset drop down box and click on mountainous lowlands. So that adjusts a bunch of settings for us and just sets it up so that it will generate a landscape that would look like mountainous lowlands. So from there we can just click generate height map from Perlin noise. And it generates some topography for us. So this one has some ridges like a mountainous range would, but also because it's lowlands it has a few flat areas. So if we wanted to, we could also just go ahead and make something completely different. I might not like mountainous lowlands, I might want some rolling hills, so I could change the preset. It changes all the settings for me, and then just click on generate height map again. And it will generate something more like rolling hills as shown here. So I don't really want that, I just want the mountainous lowlands, so I'll just click undo height map modification. So at the bottom of each tab there's an undo button, which you can undo the last change you made. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to go straight into texturing. I'm going to add 3 textures, and I'm going to add some textures in, so some default ones, some grass and rock, or grass, rocky albedo, a standard asset, and a null map I generated for it earlier, which is included in the package, and some layered rock for a cliff. So from there I'm going to set how the grass, rocky and the cliff will be textured onto the terrain. So I'm going to set up some rules. So the grass is going to be textured by inclination, so it will appear between 0 and 20 degrees of inclination on the terrain. Same deal for the rocky grass, but from 15 to 35 degrees. And similar for the cliff, but from 30 to 90 degrees. So we're just going to hit texture landscape for that. So that will generate something that looks relatively good, but has a few small problems. So the first one is that it's pretty obvious that the cliff texture is a tiling texture. You can see it repeating glaringly obviously. So to fix that, we're just going to bump up the tiling to 100 by 100. So every tile will be 100 meters by 100 meters in size. So it will be scaled up by a factor of 4, which will reduce the tiling a lot. Yeah. So then I'm just going to click Texture Landscape again. So that fixes our tiling and makes it look a lot better. So from there, I'm just going to go straight into the Trees tab, and I'm going to add one tree type. So for this one, I'm going to select Conifer Desktop Optimize that comes with the pack, and I'm going to make it place trees by height and inclination as by default, but I'm going to change the min and max height to 0 and 1000 meters. And then I'm just going to click Populate Landscape with Trees. So it's placed the trees randomly across the terrain, but again, as with the textures, there's a few problems. Firstly, as you can see up on this mountain over here, there are some trees being placed on some very high mountain points that we don't really want them to be placed up there. So to fix this one, I'm going to put the max height down to 750 meters. Also, there's some trees that are appearing at some steep slopes that we don't really want, which causes this effect where the tree seems to be partly hovering above the ground. So to reduce this, I'm going to make the max inclination 20 degrees. Also, if we go over here, we notice that some trees look massively bigger than other trees, which makes those trees look kind of small and weird. So we're going to make the max scale for trees 2. And also, this will mean that the trees overall are smaller, which will make the distance between them look a lot greater. So we're going to put the min proximity down to 15 meters so that a tree can appear within 15 meters of another tree. So from there, I'm just going to go Populate Landscape with Trees again. So now, if we zoom out, we can see that the trees don't appear on top of the mountains anymore. The trees also don't appear in these areas where there's greater inclination. The trees have been scaled down so that they look more consistent with each other, and the proximity, they're a bit closer to each other now. So now I'm going to go on to the next step where I'm going to be adding grass to the terrain. So I'm going to add 2 grass types. The first one is a standard assets grass, the Grass Frond 01. I'm going to make it a billboard rendering mode, and I'm going to up the width to 3, min of 3 and a maximum of 4, so that the grass looks a bit more dense without having a huge performance rendering overhead. And I'm going to set the populating mode to inclination, so it will appear at a minimum inclination of 0 and a maximum inclination of 25. Then for my second grass type, I'm going to have Grass 4, one that comes with the pack. I think it's from the boot camp demo. And I'm going to make the min height of 1, max of 2, min of 1, and max of 2 for width. Put the grass density down to 1 so it doesn't appear too often. Just be a grass type that's to give the grass a little more variation. I'm going to set the populating mode to inclination with min and max inclination of 0 and 25 degrees. And I'm going to set the grass patch fading mode to fade, so it will look a bit more interestingly placed. Then I'll click Populate Landscape with Grass to populate the terrain with grass. So if I zoom in, you can now see that the terrains have been populated with grass. The grass frond 01 forms the basis of the grass, so that you get the just basic grass, and then you've got the grass foregrass giving a little bit of variety. So this scene is now looking pretty good for only about 10 minutes of work, but we can improve this with Landscape Builder a bit more by adding some lighting. So Landscape Builder comes with an inbuilt lighting system to not really render or simulate lighting, but to make it easy to modify Unity's default directional lights and all that to give better lighting to the scene. So to add this in, we're going to go into the Landscape tab, expand the scene settings, and just click on Set Up Scene Lighting. So it's got Remove Directional Lights ticked, so we'll get rid of the old directional light in the scene. So just click on it, and it adds some better lighting into the scene. So we've got some fog over here into the distance, giving it more of an atmospheric feel. And as we zoom in, we can see that the sun by default is placed overhead. So what we can do now is we can click on the LB lighting object in the scene and click on the Inspector tab to show its options. And we're going to change a few settings to give a bit more of an atmospheric feel to it. So I'm going to set the start time of day to 6.5. So that's 6:30 AM. And then I'm just going to click this button, Update Lighting Preview. So now that puts the sun over there, as it would be at 6:30 AM, and makes it a bit darker and changes a few of the fog settings. So if I click on the game view, we can now see that the sun looks pretty good from this perspective. So now I can just click play as I've completed the basics of the scene, and we can have a walk around and see what it looks like. So the grass gives it a good feel because it's not very flat, and we can see the sun rising in the distance, and the background looks like it goes on for a fair distance. So that's the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching.